250 million years ago, the world was broken. The Permian extinction, the greatest dying the Earth has ever known, had erased nearly all life. 90% of species vanished in fire, poison, and silence. Forests turned to ash. Oceans became toxic graveyards. The very air stung with heat and death. For a moment, it seemed Earth itself had given up. But life is stubborn. Life claws its way back from the edge, and in the ashes of annihilation, something new began to stir. This was the dawn before dinosaurs. The continents were fused into one, Pangaea, a supercontinent stretching from pole to pole, vast and unbroken. At its center lay endless deserts, where scorching sun baked the earth into lifeless dunes. Along its coasts, monsoon rains lashed the land, flooding plains and carving rivers that vanished as quickly as they formed. Volcanoes tore open the crust, belching fire and ash. Skies turned blood red with smoke, and storms rolled endlessly across the horizon. This was no paradise. This was a crucible, and only the hardiest survivors could endure. Out of this chaos came the archosaurs. They were not yet dinosaurs, but they were their ancestors. Swift, scaly, with strong legs beneath their bodies, they could run faster and strike harder than anything that came before. The fearsome Erythroscus ruled as one of the first great predators. Nearly 16 feet long, with massive jaws and serrated teeth, it crushed prey with terrifying force. But predators cannot live without prey. And so another survivor rose to dominate the land, the Lystrosaurus. Squat, tusked, and unimpressive by appearance, the Lystrosaurus was the unlikely hero of the Triassic dawn. 3 feet long with beak-like jaws, it grazed on roots and shoots in the muddy marshes. But what it lacked in size, it made up for in resilience. Lystrosaurus made up over 90% of land animals in some regions. They moved in massive herds, trampling wetlands, digging burrows, and outlasting predators simply by sheer numbers. It was not strength that made them rulers of this new age. It was survival. While the land began to heal, the oceans were still poisoned. The extinction had starved the seas of oxygen, turning them into black, lifeless waters. Coral reefs lay in ruins. Entire species of fish and shellfish disappeared forever. But not all was lost. Slender, serpent-like nothosaurs glided through shallow coastal waters, using their paddle-shaped limbs to hunt fish. Early ancestors of future sea reptiles lurked in the depths, experimenting with new ways to survive. The oceans were dangerous and unstable, but in time, they too would give rise to monsters. Life at this time was a brutal experiment. Predators like Erythroscus stalked the floodplains, ambushing herds of Lystrosaurus. With dagger-like teeth, they struck fast and hard, tearing through hide and bone. But prey fought back in numbers. Stampedes of Lystrosaurus could trample smaller hunters into the mud. Some dug burrows to escape the claws of predators. Others simply outlived the hunters by breeding in overwhelming numbers. The balance was delicate. Every day, survival was won and lost in tooth and claw. Beyond predators and prey, the greatest enemy of all was the Earth itself. Pangaea's vast deserts starved many creatures of water. Storms brought sudden floods that drowned entire herds, and volcanic eruptions poisoned the skies, leaving land cloaked in ash. Those that endured became stronger. Those that failed vanished forever. The world was testing its survivors, and in this trial by fire, new life was being forged. In this harsh world, tiny shadows began to move. Among the undergrowth scurried the first true dinosaurs, creatures like Eoraptor, small, nimble, no bigger than a dog. They hunted insects and lizards, darting between the legs of giants unseen. They were insignificant in their time. No one could have guessed that these fragile survivors would one day grow into titans, the kings of the Mesozoic. For now, they waited in silence. But their time was coming. 250 million years ago, the Earth began again. It was a world of heat and storms, a world of predators and prey, a world scarred by death, but alive with possibility. The dinosaurs had not yet taken the stage, but the world was ready. And from the ashes of the Permian, the age of giants was about to rise. This was life 250 million years ago, the dawn before dinosaurs.